All right, here we go. 1090 Jake, welcome back to VladTV.
Appreciate you.
Of course, man. First of all, congratulations on hitting 1 million subscribers on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it's a big milestone. You know, 99% of YouTubers never hit that.
Nah, definitely. It's big. That was one of like the biggest things I've been working towards. That was like a long-term goal because I've been doing this for a little over 5 years now. And this is like the first major accomplishment that has taken me some years to get to. You know, I didn't finish high school, never went to college. So this is one of those major things. And to get that gold plaque, it's an amazing feeling. I just appreciate everybody that helped me along the way and supported me and helped me to get to where I'm at now.
Of course, man. Hopefully we added a little bit, you know, to that push.
Nah, for sure. I appreciate it too. Yeah.
Of course. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. But I want to hit something that actually hits close to home because this is one of my homies, Bun B.
Right.
Bun B from the legendary UGK had a home invasion that happened some years back where a guy forced himself into his house with his wife home, pulled out a gun on her. Bun B went and grabbed his pistol, found the guy, I think in the garage, opened fire, shot up the car. The guy got arrested, and recently he got sentenced to 40 years. And during the sentencing, Bun B took the stand, and he was crying on the stand, talking about the situation. And a lot of people are trying to say that he's snitching and so forth, something I don't agree with at all. But what is your take on this?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't really know much about him. Like, that's not really my generation. I didn't really know about the case until I started seeing it on Instagram with him taking the stand. From what I hear, he used to live a different life years back. I don't think that the person he was back then would agree with what he's doing now. But I don't think the person he is now is the person he was back then. So I don't know if I could say it any better than that. I mean, taking the stand is taking the stand. But dude isn't who he was. And I don't know if they're trying to hold him to that standard or whatever it is. I don't know enough about him, the case, none of it. So it's like, I don't really want to get too deep into something where I don't really know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Bun B's in his 50s at this point. He's got grandkids. He's married. Yeah, I mean, I interviewed him before and I got his whole life story. Yeah, he used to dabble in the streets in his late teens, maybe early 20s. So this is like 30 years ago.
Right.
He's been a full-time music guy for the last 3 decades. He's not, I mean, I guess he used to be a gangster rapper to a certain degree, but that's not really what he's on. I mean, he owns Trill Burgers. Like I said, he's a grandfather. He follows the law. Me personally, if someone breaks into my house, I would do exactly what he did. I would shoot the guy up, and if I had to take the stand, I would take the stand.
Right. Well, I mean, in most self-defense situations, you have to cooperate to a certain extent, you know? And the majority of the people that are going to be saying something are people that have never been in that situation. But I don't know. I mean, 50, if he hasn't been doing nothing for 30 years, it's like, how is he getting held to that standard? But at the same time, if you go and testify, you know what it comes with, and he made the decision. So
yeah, I mean, listen, I had a home invasion situation that happened years and years ago where I was with a girl and her ex-boyfriend jumps in through the window and attacks me, and I fucked him up pretty badly. And I didn't take the stand against him. We had a conversation before his trial, and I just said, listen, as far as I'm concerned, we're even. You know, you did what you did. I did what I had to do. I'm not going to take the stand. He ended up getting probation, but it was also not my home. Right. It was a girl's house. So I didn't really care whether he was out or in because me and the girl weren't even dealing with each other at that point. But if it's my own house and I knew that this guy might get let free and might come back to try to get revenge on me for shooting him in my own home, I would want him away as long as possible. And he ended up getting 40 years.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. So you're saying if someone came in your house and pulled out a gun on your girl with your kids in the house and everything else like that, and you shot him in self-defense, you wouldn't take the stand against him?
I mean, I'm a convicted felon with gun charges, so if I ever had to shoot somebody, I'm shooting them until they look like fucking spaghetti. I don't even want to make it into a courtroom. I want them to die right there. If it's a situation, you're in my house, wife, kid, etc., I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna defend my people, but I'm gonna hope to God you don't fucking make it off the scene. Like, it's one of them. I wouldn't want to be in a
Yeah,
courtroom testifying though.
yeah. In this situation, I think the guy was in the garage in the car, and Bun B basically shot up the car with a guy in it, but he survived.
What state was this in?
I'm assuming Texas.
Yeah, so stand your ground 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah.
can, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's like common sense. Somebody comes in, but at the same time, he probably could have handled it how you did. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he probably would have gotten convicted. Well, not probably. He would have gotten convicted anyways, because I'm sure the police were called and they showed up and had to pick him up and arrest him and everything else like that. You don't necessarily need.
I just, bro, like the whole snitching shit, like, to be honest with you, we all see it. Once you reach a certain level of success, nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
When you've had that success for decades and you're a certain age now, nobody's gonna hold nothing to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think it's silly sometimes. Like for example, Tony Yayo's a regular guest on my show, and he was talking about an instance when his dad was having a heart attack, and he hesitated from calling 911 because he just was in, it was ingrained that you never do that. But his dad is having a heart attack, and luckily someone else was in the house and just grabbed the phone away from him and just dialed 911 and got someone there.
Right.
But sometimes this hesitation to do it on any level, it has no logic to it.
Yeah.
Your dad's having a heart attack. You're not snitching on your dad. Like, your dad's having a heart attack.
I mean, it's like, as stupid as things sound, you got stupid people that live in these areas that'll hear that you called 911 and they'll make a stupid decision and take your life because they think you did something you didn't. So I think the hesitation comes from that. It's like, it's not necessarily the act, it's how is everybody going to perceive what took place. If I call for this, maybe I'll call for that. You know what I mean? It's the environment.
Yeah, but does it really matter anymore? Like, Gunna had like a #1 album. He just did a show in Atlanta,
Right.
and he sold it out. It's like nobody cares. If you come out with a good product that someone likes, yeah, some people are going to be on the internet and going to say this and that, but ultimately,
people are going to say that anyway. People will talk shit about you and you never told on anybody. So it's like,
I never told
but
anybody.
that in itself, Gunna's success, that's like showing motherfuckers like, okay, I can do this and do it this way, and I'm still good. So it's like,
yeah,
it's just crazy.
Well, the Young Thug case is moving on and is taking more and more strange directions.
That shit's fucking nuts.
His main lawyer, Brian Steele, was arrested in the courtroom.
Yeah.
What do you think about that whole situation?
If I ever needed a lawyer again in my life, I would want him. That man got arrested. He requested to be placed in the cell with Thug so he could continue to work the case. That's hands down the best fucking lawyer in America right now. Like, this whole thing, I feel like after it's done, is just gonna be a fucking promo video for him. Everybody's gonna want to hire him because he's really going to war. And the crazy thing is, he got locked up because he wouldn't snitch.
Yeah.
He kept it more solid than people in the YSL case. That's crazy. He wouldn't tell the judge how he heard what he heard. The judge knew he fucked up, held him in contempt. This whole case, I feel like at this point, is just gonna get thrown out. It's too much bullshit.
Yeah, no, he even called for him his trial as he was getting arrested, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened because I guess he said that there was some improper communication between the judge, a witness and the district attorney.
So Kenneth Copeland, the style witness, him, the judge, the state, they had a private discussion. The defense wasn't there. Apparently, during this private discussion, Kenneth Copeland admitted to killing Nut, which is the main murder that started the whole war between Young Thug's camp and the Inglewood Bloods. Dude admitted to it. And, you know, he's got immunity, so it won't be held against him. But this whole conversation took place without Thug's defense. And apparently they were supposed to be there, and they were never supposed to find out. Brian Steele found out. So now the judge is pissed because it's like, oh, I did something you wasn't supposed to know about. How the fuck did you know this happened? Brian Steele's like, I ain't finna snitch.
I guess what I don't understand is, so this witness they're talking about is YSL Woody, right?
Woody, yeah.
Yeah, that's Woody. So he admitted to the murder, but they're giving him immunity as the murderer?
He already got immunity. That's why he's testifying. So he tried to plead the fifth, and they told him that ain't going to happen because you're already granted immunity in this case. So he's pretty much good. They're giving him the immunity, kind of like a Sammy the Bull situation. Like, yeah, you smacked a whole generation of people, but we're going to let that slide, and you just need to tell us who told you to do it. So.
Okay. So they're letting the murderer go because they're trying to get him to say that Young Thug ordered the murder?
I wouldn't say that because I'm not sure entirely. I'm just, in my perspective, they're looking at Thug like he's Gotti. He's the brain. He's the one behind the operation. Listening to Woody speak, you can tell he's fucking half retarded. So I'm not surprised that he did it and snitched and is testifying. But that's pretty much what they're doing. Because why get him when we can tell he's not all the way there, when we can get the one that we think is behind the whole operation?
Right, because remember when he took the stand initially, he didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
He tried to plead the fifth, and the judge was like, you know, like you said, you got immunity, you can't plead the fifth. So if you don't cooperate, you're going back to jail. So they sent him back to jail. Then they took him out and put him back on the stand again. And he said that he would cooperate.
Yeah, that one night in jail, you know, that did it for him. He was like, fuck that. So.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what they did to him in jail. I don't know if it was because I'm sure they're not putting him in where everyone else is. I'm sure he's going right to PC. And the thing is, if you're held in contempt during a trial, they'll put you in jail for the remainder of the trial. So there's no telling how long he would be in there for. So he spent that one night, I guess, and that did it for him.
I mean, it's interesting because I never really knew about this part of, you know, the law where I always assumed you could always plead the fifth. Right. But if you're given immunity, you cannot plead the fifth.
I guess so. I don't know. I've never been in that situation. I was always the one that fucking was in Thug's seat. You know what I mean?
I used to talk to Gunna's lawyer, who's now Trump's lawyer. And he explained to me that after Gunna did the whole thing of admitting, you know, that, you know, YSL's a gang and so forth, he said that if he was ever called to the stand, he would plead the fifth because there is a potential of a superseding federal indictment. So anything he could say could actually be used against him. So that's the justification of him being able to plead the fifth. And as you could see, Gunna has never been called to the stand.
Right.
But that still doesn't really make sense to me because if you're giving immunity to Woody, isn't there the fear of the federal indictment anyways?
Unless they're just playing him and he doesn't know better.
Yeah, but you can't have a judge say something in open court that's just false.
Well, think about it. He's saying you're immune in my court. He's not clarifying the feds. That's a whole nother, you know what I'm saying? So when you got a guy like Woody who just don't know what the fuck going on, you could easily play him. So it's like, I don't even think he got a lawyer. Does he have a lawyer or a PD?
Well, he fired his lawyer on the stand.
But was that an actual lawyer or was it a public defender?
Probably a public defender.
Yeah, so that they're not telling him shit. and then now he's gonna get another one to represent himself. I don't know, but they might just be playing with him.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Young Thug didn't hire decent lawyers for the important co-defendants in his case.
Maybe he's not allowed to.
You can pay for whoever you want to pay for. What would not allow you to pay for someone's lawyer?
You could pay for the star witness's lawyer who's testifying against you?
Yeah, it's just a lawyer.
I don't know. I think that they would fucking find something to complain about that.
I mean, you're going to have a lawyer regardless
Right.
of who pays for it. You will have a public defender if you cannot afford a lawyer.
Right.
So if you are a co-defendant, if me and you were co-defendants and I had all the money, I would pay for your lawyer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want you with a public defender, pleading out against me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'd want to get you the best possible representation.
Yeah, but if me and you were co-defendants and you're fucking testifying on me and I found out you're already, I'm not paying for your lawyer. Because they're going to help you out even more. That ain't helping me. And if it is helping me, the state's going to pick up on it. State's going to be like, wait, what the fuck? Why are you saying shit that benefits him? We want you to save you and fuck him over. I'm not funding that.
Yeah, but I just feel like worse things happen when you have a public defender, just in general.
Right.
When you have a public defender who is, especially in a case like this, that's dragging out for multiple years now, and they're getting paid essentially minimum wage. Remember, one of the lawyers, female lawyers, said she's going to have to get an OnlyFans account in order to support herself during this trial.
Yeah, this is
a train wreck.
This is the worst trial I've ever, I didn't even think trials could get like this. This is some shit right here.
Yeah, it's a circus.
Yeah.
It's an absolute circus. If I were to guess, I would probably guess that Young Thug will be found guilty, but I think there's going to be an appeal that gets filed, and then that appeal is going to cause a mistrial, and they're going to have to start all over again. That's what I think. That's what I think. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I hope.
I don't know any of these guys.
I hope they just realize that this case is so fucked that it needs to just go away.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I remember I talked to YFN Lucci's lawyer. I actually interviewed him, Finling. And the deal he worked out for Lucci was great. He basically got him time served, including the house arrest, pleaded out to like a lesser, it was like a gang affiliation as opposed to like a gang member kind of situation. He got the murder off the table, which really Lucci wasn't even involved in. You know what I'm saying? It was like someone got killed in the car with him. And essentially he got him like 3.5 months. And from what I understand, he's supposed to be out pretty soon. I think he should have already been out, but I think pretty soon he's going to be out.
Yeah, he got an amazing deal. The best fucking deal I ever heard of. But you got to think, too, though, Lucci was willing to hold it down. Lucci wasn't going to testify. Woody already snitched years ago.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I remember.
You're dealing with two different people. You know what I mean? That's a different thing.
I mean, it's pretty wild to me that, because like one of the things in the trial was that Lucci's mom got shot at, and then Young Thug made a song about it, right? To have a beef with someone where your mother gets shot at, and all types of violence has occurred between you and this person, and I think Lucci was like stabbed in jail by YSL guys at one point. To have this level of violence and this hatred, and to still say, I'm not going to take the stand against that person, it's a character trait that you rarely see in life.
Right.
Yeah, it's actually amazing. Like, I think that 99.9% of people were like, I hate you. I'm going to do whatever it takes to hurt you at this point because you've hurt me.
Well, that's how most snitching goes down. It's like revenge. Like, oh, I'm going to have them do this to you. Yeah. That's why they get so mad when a motherfucker beat the case and they still snitch.
Yeah. Well, speaking of cases, the Keefe D case is still ongoing. And Keefe's defense, because I remember hearing an interview with his lawyer, was that Keefe D wasn't even in Las Vegas. He made all this up in order to, make some money from interviews, and I've paid him for interviews before.
Right.
So I'm going to be part of this defense in one way or another. And he was just trying to get some internet clout, and he was also trying to beat a serious PCP case back in the day, but he wasn't there at all. But in his book, and I remember I interviewed him about this, the guy that he said gave him the gun, which ended up killing Tupac, was a guy named Eric Von Zip from New York. That, in the book, he said he was hanging out with Foxy Brown. So now they're trying to get Foxy Brown on the stand to basically say that, yeah, she saw Keefe D that night. That would place him in Vegas. Then that would essentially throw out his whole defense.
Damn.
I mean, what do you think about the whole Keefe D case?
He's fucking stupid. Like, you did all that talking and now you're in this situation. It's your fault. You really, you try to profit off of something that a lot of people are mad that had happened. You're trying to profit off of Tupac's death. And you did it so much, you probably could have got away with just a little bit, but you kept it going and kept it going. And now you're in this situation. So it's like, you fucked yourself.
I mean, why do you think that people who get away with crimes end up essentially telling on themselves later on in life? There's a whole documentary on HBO called The Jinx with this guy named Robert Durst. I don't know if you watched it, but he killed 3 people, and he was worth like hundreds of millions of dollars. He came from this really rich real estate family in New York. He killed his first wife. He killed his neighbor in Texas, chopped up the body, got arrested for it, went to court and beat the case, and then killed this other woman who basically helped him get away with the first murder. And then he decides to do an interview with these filmmakers. And in the interview, he admitted to a bunch of stuff that he shouldn't have admitted to, like in the first murder. And then they caught him on a hot mic going to the bathroom saying, "I killed them all." And then ultimately he was arrested. He went to court, found guilty, and then he died in prison like a year later during the course of the appeal.
Right.
But why do you see people so often feel like they need to get their story out there, knowing that it might put them in prison for life?
It's a power trip. It's a power trip. A lot of these people got low self-esteem. They do something to somebody, they want everybody to know. You know what I mean? And it's like, you're doing something that the majority of people in the world don't do. You're killing somebody. It's something you can't reverse. You don't have the power to do that. You can't bring somebody back. So a lot of these dudes want you to know they've done something. They've crossed that line that there's no coming back from. It's the same shit in prison. You got motherfuckers that catch bodies. They want you to know they got a body. For some of them, it's a self-defense mechanism. You got some dudes that got life. So when you get like a call out in prison, you walk up and you'll see who all got call outs. It'll have their DC number and it'll have their fucking release date. So any dude that got life, it just says 9999999, like infinity. You're in here forever. So when you see that, then you look at the dude, you're like, damn, what the fuck is he in here for? And these dudes will put on the front like, yeah, I'm in here on a body. I'm trying to get that appeal back. The whole time they're lying. They're in there for some stupid shit, but they just did it so much they got life. But they want you to think that because of the power that comes with it. Oh, he killed somebody. You know what I mean? So it's like, when people out here do shit, they just hint at it because they want you to know. They want you to have that perception of them.
Yeah, I remember a while back, I interviewed this police officer from Kansas City when I was working on the Mac Dre story for American Gangster. And we were talking about teardrop tattoos. And he was saying that most of the people with teardrop tattoos haven't killed anybody, but it's an intimidation factor.
Yeah.
When you see those tattoos on their face, you think, oh, this guy's a murderer. Oh, he's a multiple murderer, because he got 3 tattoos. Let me be, scared of this guy. But a lot of times, they haven't killed anybody.
No, yeah, definitely. And I mean, I met somebody in prison. I forget his name, but the last prison I was at, they said he was in there for a triple murder in Miami. He supposedly sprayed him up with an AK. he doesn't have teardrops. He has the chalk outlines of bodies, 3 of them tattooed on his throat. So it's
Wow.
like he's flat the fuck out telling you, like, yeah, smacked 1, 2, and 3. He's just letting you know. Then you got other dudes that'll have graveyards tatted on them, and each grave will supposed to be a body, but some people, like, in there is different. Like, some of them will tattoo their victims' names because they're not getting out and they're standing on it. But as far as teardrops, like, man, I feel like Lil Wayne and Gucci really made everybody want to get a fucking teardrop, to be honest with you. And then motherfuckers will get pressed about the shit. Like, they'll go to jail. Oh, you got tears? You did something? Oh, no, these my grandparents. That's grandma. That's grandpa. They passed away. You know, it's how I remember them. So it's like, that shit ain't what it used to be. They say back in like the 80s and shit, you seen teardrops. They really did it.
Yeah, I mean, I just interviewed Terrence Gangsta Williams, who's Birdman's brother.
Yeah.
And he admitted to 40 murders.
He admitted to a lot from what I heard.
Yeah, 40 murders. And he implicated all of his dead friends.
Yeah.
Because essentially he was part of a group called the Hot Boys, the original Hot Boys that, that the rap group named themselves after. 3, there's 4 of them, and 3 of them are dead. He's the only living member, essentially, out of that group. So at one point, he just came in and just started naming all the murders that him and his friends were involved in, and it added up to like 40 people.
Yeah.
But they were all dead. They were all dead. But what he said was interesting was that during the time that he was on the street, that as soon as he killed somebody, he couldn't wait to go back to the hood and tell his friends about it.
Yeah.
And that was regular. And he just never thought that anybody would ever cooperate because no one ever cooperated. And during that time, no one really cooperated. Everyone was scared to get hit, killed for cooperation. You know what I'm saying? So he couldn't wait. Like, I mean, I remember at one point there was a whole situation where, like, there were some guys he was beefing with, and he had some shirts made with their faces with like tombstones over them. You know what I mean? And like, yo, like, I'm gonna kill you, and I'm advertising this. And it was, yeah. I mean, I can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend that many murderers. I mean, anyone can get away with 1 murder given the right situation, right? But 40. He basically, when he went to prison, he wasn't convicted of any of those murders. He admitted to all of them after the fact.
Yeah, well, I mean, where he was in New Orleans, which has been the murder capital for fucking ever.
Yeah.
Magnolia Projects, Calliope Projects. Like, their projects and their hoods down there, they're just dying left and right. So it's like, he was in the perfect city to be what he became. Just like certain spots in Chicago, like, the police ain't able to cover everything because of how much shit is going on. Versus if you try to go do that shit in New York, you're getting caught off of the first one. You know what I mean? But in these certain places, they're just piling them up.
Yeah, and he said he did his first murder at 11. And he was given a gun, and he went and did it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how, like when you look at kids that young, there's really no thought process really behind activities like this. If someone that you look up to, that you respect, whether it's a parent or a relative or a sibling, tells you to do something and they tell you it's okay, there's almost no reason for you not to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you that young doing that shit, is who you're around. You're being influenced. So it's like there's a case that just came out with this kid that got killed in Chicago, Lil Jeff. He gets killed trying to kill somebody. After his death, the father goes on Facebook and pretty much is like, it's up with whoever killed him. And then the mother shares a screenshot of her talking to her son about how she saw him shooting at people with a Draco, whatever. But it's like, those are the type of parents that create a kid like that. Yeah. So now they say he allegedly had 10 murders and he got killed trying to kill somebody. You look at the parents and say, oh, okay, it makes sense. They're on the same shit. So when you got whole projects full of that shit, you're gonna find people like Terrence Gangsta Williams that
Like,
take
who's the
off.
youngest person that you knew that killed somebody?
It's definitely not no 12. I think like 15. That was the first time I really like heard about someone our age doing some shit. I was a freshman, like 15 years old. But it wasn't like a Marlo Mike motherfucking. You got a whole graveyard. Like it was like one murder you got caught in. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like they were a whole serial killer. It was just a situation, and that's what happened.
Yeah, no, listen, I asked Terrence if he considers himself a serial killer, and he said at the time, yes. I'm like, would you consider yourself evil? He said at the time, yes. He said, not anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, it's funny because I talked to him. Like, a few months ago when we did another interview, we went out and grabbed some dinner afterwards. Just chopped it up. He's got a good sense of humor, doesn't take anything personally. Like, I'm not scared of him at all when I'm around him.
Yeah.
But I don't have any reason to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, our interactions are only positive. I promote him. I put some money in his pocket. I helped him get his first look. His first interview out of prison I did, which helped him out. Now he has a YouTube channel. He's able to support himself. He lives out in Dallas. He's not in New Orleans anymore. He doesn't need like a regular 9-to-5 job because the YouTube money is basically supporting his lifestyle. He just had a kid recently. He's happy. He doesn't want to go back.
Right.
He's a nice guy now, and he was saying how like when he was in prison and he wasn't sure when he's getting out, he would start to think of like, man, this dude here, he stole this money from me, and I should probably kill him. And then you start to kind of create a list of people, and next thing you know, there's 20 people you want to kill in your head. And you know what I'm saying? It starts to open up a whole door that you don't really want to go in. But I mean, it's weird, man. It's hard to get your head around it because it's such a taboo topic. But there's really people like this out there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you grew up in a certain area, you just go to prison, like you get over that shit real quick. Like by the time I went to an adult prison, I was closed custody. So the only custody level above that is you're stuck in a cell 24/7. You're not coming out. So closed custody is the highest custody level you can have and still be in general population. So everybody I'm in here with, the majority of them are like the lifers, or he got 80 years or whatever. So you around a whole bunch of people that smack shit, and you just kind of like get over it. Like it doesn't really, when you first get there, you're like, oh shit. But then once you're there and you start seeing people get hit up, it doesn't really have that like woo factor anymore. You know what I mean? Versus people out here that never been around that shit, to them it's still like surprising.
I mean, if you look at all the people you were locked up with, all the people that caught bodies, what percentage of them do you think were really remorseful of doing the act? Not that they got caught. And not, when you go in front of the parole board, you're going to shed tears and make it look a certain type of way. But I'm saying, like, in regular conversation, what percentage of the people are like, something? I feel horrible about doing this.
None
I
of
got
them.
caught in a angry situation, but I feel so bad that this person is no longer alive and their family's still crying over it and everything else like that.
Yeah, none of them. Because you can't show
None of
you
them.
can't show weakness in prison. You can't talk like that. You start talking like that, a motherfucker gonna try to extort you. Like, oh, you sweet. You know what I mean? Like I was in there with a kid who crashed a car and killed two of his friends, or one of his friends, on prom. He got 10 years for manslaughter. You know what I mean? Like, I know this motherfucker regretted, but he can't show that. And you got other people that I feel like are remorseful. They just don't know how to be remorseful. You can't talk to us about that shit because we're in prison. You got to keep it gangsta in here. So they struggle with these things, and they might lash out, or they might act even more violent because they don't know how to process it. They don't know how to deal with it. You're not in a place where you can be remorseful. You can't show weakness. So it's like, I've never seen it because it's not allowed. but I don't think that means that they don't regret what happened. You can tell certain people are fucked up after they do what they did. You know what I mean? There's physical scars, but then there's mental scars. You can't see those, but you can see it in their actions. You can see how they move different, they talk different, they think different.
Yeah, I mean, just the other day, there's a story that broke out. I guess it was Webby's DJ. And he goes on this whole Instagram rant about how he had been Webby's DJ for 10 years and this dude never took care of him and he's selfish and he had to do all this extra work and blah, blah, blah. And right after that rant, he ends up killing his wife and then killing himself.
Yeah.
And you've seen the situation, like, you know, one of Game's close friends, same thing, killed his girl and then kills himself. You see a lot of that where you fight with your girl, tempers flare, you pull out a gun, maybe not intending to shoot the person, but maybe trying to scare them off. And next thing you know, she's dead. And you're like, okay, I'm about to go to prison for the rest of my life. I don't want to do this. Let me just kill myself. And, you know, you do see that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad, man.
That's just crazy because
Sad.
I was actually reading about that on the way over here. And I think he killed the kids too.
He killed the kids too?
I think that's what I read, if I'm not mistaken. I think he killed the kids too. So I'm not sure, I could be wrong, but the entire situation is fucking horrible.
Yeah, you see this a lot over the years, man. I remember Roger Troutman from the group Zap. It was this really big group in the 70s. You know, Roger Troutman's in the California Love video with Tupac and Dre. He's the one that does the chorus and everything. He got into an argument with his brother in the car over money. The brother kills him, and then a couple blocks later, the brother kills himself. So it's like you got one body here, and then a couple blocks over, you got another body here. You know, a lot of people, man, I mean, committing a murder, it's easy to do in the moment.
Yeah.
But then once reality kicks in a few minutes later, you know you're not getting away with it. You know, suicide is a reasonable option at that point.
It's just sad.
Very sad. Well, since our last interview, Diddy's Miami and LA homes were raided.
All right.
You did a whole piece on this.
I did.
Now, we don't know what he's being charged with, although there is a grand jury going on right now. If you were to guess, what do you think the feds are going to charge him with?
Some type of sex shit. I don't know what the charge would be, but based on the allegations of him hiring strippers to be prostitutes and escorts and mixing in drugs with that shit, recordings, something along those lines.
But do you think that that's cause enough for a federal raid? I mean, it seemed like most people were willing participants in this whole situation.
Yeah, even the one
see what I'm
that's...
saying?
Well, I gotta be careful how I say this because I don't want to get sued next, but the guy that's suing Diddy with all these accusations, Lil Rod, Rodney, whatever the fuck his name is,
Yeah.
participated in everything that happened. Oh, Diddy forced me to take these drugs and fuck these two Colombian girls at the same time. I was forced. I didn't want to do that. He made me do that. So it's like, all right, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't have to make me do that, but he got to live the lifestyle that Diddy lives for however long it was and take part in everything. And he's saying he was forced to do it all.
Yeah, I mean, the Lil Rod lawsuit, I read through the whole thing. There's so many just ridiculous statements in there. You know, like there was a picture of like a dude having gay sex who he claimed was Stevie J, but then the actual gay porn actor stepped up and said, no, that's actually me. It's from a movie I did. Like Usher was dragged into this.
Meek Mill.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah.
And the lawyer who put this together is the same lawyer that, that's, for example, I think it's the same lawyer that's, suing academics right now.
Yeah.
But essentially, I think Lucien Grange, the head of Universal, not only did he put in motions to get himself taken off this lawsuit because he had nothing to do with this, but he was actually trying to get sanctions against the lawyer because the lawyer has a long history of trying to get around the legal system by creating these ridiculous lawsuits with these outrageous allegations that are designed to embarrass the person into settling and essentially not go through the proper legal system.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I filed a lawsuit that said 1090 Jake is into trans and he rapes trans men and, like smokes crack and whatever else, you might just pay me to just make this go away, even though it's all ridiculous.
I might pay somebody else to make you go away for doing all that shit. But that's, yeah, it's like a legal extortion.
It's basically that.
Yeah.
And I guess they're trying to get him, basically they're trying to take his law license away on some regard in terms of doing that. But it's really wild. All these women like Daphne Joy, 50 Cent's baby mother, and Young Miami, they're all named as sex workers.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really just very insane allegations that are making a lot of people look really, really, really bad without any actual real proof behind anything beyond someone just saying what they're saying.
Well, I think that speaks for itself because I haven't really heard anybody that's friends with Diddy come to his defense. Like, nah, he wouldn't do that. He's a good guy. I haven't really.
A couple people. Stevie J, he's spoken up against,
because Stevie J got brought up in this shit. They said he was fucking a dude, so of course he gonna say something about it. But like, everyone else seems to just be cutting ties with him.
Yeah, but look, I've gone through this before myself multiple times. When you're being canceled, the only thing you could really hope from your friends is they're just going to stay silent and not pile on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
they're waiting to see what the fuck happens.
You can't expect your friends to sit there and be like, no, he's not like this. I'm going to go on a campaign trying to prove the opposite, et cetera, because that's just, people have their own careers. People have their own reputations. People don't want to, think about how many employees were a Bad Boy, were a Ciroc, were a Blue Flame Agency, were a Sean John, were Making the Band, who are just hoping that their name just doesn't get mentioned in this at all.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Suge Knight did a podcast where he claims that Diddy's been an FBI informant for years. Would that surprise you if it was true?
What is he informant on?
I don't know.
Because to say he's an informant, but then people are trying to say he tried to pay $1 million to get somebody killed, that doesn't really go hand in hand.
You're talking about Tupac and Suge.
Right.
Yeah, well, Keefe D, in his book and in our interview, essentially said that at one point, Diddy was so, scared and upset over the constant barrage from Tupac and Death Row and the constant threats from Suge that, in a deli in L.A., Greenblatt's Deli, which I've been to, he had a meeting with Keefe D and some other Southside Crips, and he was like, yo, man, I'll give $1 million if you can just make these guys go away. I remember talking to Greg Kading about it, and he actually investigated this. He said it didn't feel like an actual murder for hire. It was just more of just a guy who was scared and frustrated who just kind of blurted out something, not thinking that anyone would ever kind of follow through on it. But, according to Keefe D in our interview and his book, after Tupac got killed, Diddy called him and said, was that us? And the story was that Eric Von Zip, who was the guy that allegedly gave the gun to Keefe D, which Orlando used to kill Tupac, Diddy gave him the money, which was supposed to go to Keefe, but Eric Von Zip, who's a known thief, essentially kept the money for himself and bought a nightclub. And right around that time, he bought a nightclub in real life. He's dead now. He died of cancer some years back. But he is, I mean, listen, I remember I interviewed Mike Tyson. He said how him and Eric Von Zip essentially robbed Don King for like $500,000. You know, and like he's known to be that type of guy. You know, guy who stole money, sold drugs, whatever. Now, people are saying maybe that's the reason why his house got raided, but I don't see that being a serious case. I just don't think that there is any real evidence of this.
If it becomes that, that's going to be one of the craziest cases in hip hop.
I just think that you might be able to pull this off with, you know, some poor person who's got a public defender. But I remember this made headlines because I don't think it's ever been done before to this extent. Diddy took out like $100 million as a second mortgage to his properties. And everyone assumed at that point is that he's basically putting together his war chest for his legal defense.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like seeing the power of having lawyers that are making millions, like NBA Youngboy. Mm-hmm. How many times can you fuck up and you're still not in prison? Because anybody else, they would have been gone already. But he's got so much fucking money to just pour into these lawyers, and it does a lot. Look at Kodak. Kodak's beating every motherfucking thing. Kodak just got another case thrown the fuck out. Like, his lawyer, that's that dude. You know what I mean? So it's like the power of having attorneys and a shitload of money. They might not even want to fuck with Diddy because of how this shit'll play out.
No, I mean, that's basically what Greg Kading said in our interview. He basically said that I don't think that any prosecutor will really go up against Diddy with all that money for something that's like 30 years old, with a convicted felon being the only witness, without any hard evidence. Everyone else is dead. It was 3 decades ago. It's just, you know, a reasonable doubt is just too easy to pull off in a situation like that, especially when you have, I mean, think about it. When you have millions of dollars, you are going to have the greatest defense on every level. There's going to be someone that's going to be a private investigator. You're going to have a private investigator team that's going to dig up every piece of dirt against every witness, right? Every witness is going to have every bad thing they've ever done come up in court. You're going to have the best jury selectors on the planet going like, yeah, take that woman out. She blinked when they asked her the question, and that's a sign that she's probably going to, you know, vote against us. Get her out of there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have, they're going to be investigating the judge. They're going to investigate the district attorney. Like, there's probably going to be all types of little hush payments that are done through like 20 different people where it's impossible to trace it back and so forth. Like, yeah, no, it's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. And, you know, no district attorney wants to spend a year in court and millions of dollars worth of taxpayer money and then lose.
Right.
Because they still have to run for election after that. And whoever's running against them is like, yeah, vote for them. They're going to waste your money and lose all their cases.
Right.
Vote for me. I'm going to win. Well, what did you think about the video of Diddy assaulting Cassie in the hotel?
I mean, I thought what everyone else thought. It was fucked up. It's not something he should have done. He's not the only one that's done the shit, but it's one of the first times we're actually seeing video of it. And it's a fucked up situation.
Yeah, I just did an interview with Roger Bonds, who was the head of security with Diddy for 10 years. And what he said that kind of brought a certain level of kind of clarity to the whole situation was that Diddy and Cassie were both drug addicts during this time. They constantly popped pills. Constantly. Diddy had a medicine bag that they would carry everywhere he went. He had doctors in Miami that would give him perks and Xans and every other type of drug that he can get. And when those prescriptions ran out, he would have Cassie go to the same doctors and get a bunch of pills for him and her and have other people around him, his assistants and whatever else, go and get drugs. So he was just constantly high. They would go on these drug binges that would last 2-3 days, that they would all get IVs to try to put fluids back in their body to try to recover. And then the next weekend, they would do it all over again. I mean, we all know drug addict couples that beat each other up all the time. Like, you can see it in the street.
Nah, yeah, it's just when you're dealing with two people that are famous and rich, you know, there's no excuse on his part. He shouldn't have done that shit. But
No, there isn't. There isn't, especially because, you know, I've had physically abusive women in my life, right? And I've grabbed them before and tried to get them to stop hitting me. But I've never struck a woman. I've never punched a woman. I've never slapped a woman. And, you know, when I heard about the abuse, I'm like, well, maybe it kind of went both ways to a certain degree. But then when I saw that video, I'm like, okay, nah, whatever happened, because people are like, oh, you know, they're saying that she just stole $100,000 from him. Okay, and clearly he wasn't in danger at that moment. He chased her down the hall, threw her on the ground, kicked her, dragged her back. It was like, yeah, no, you can't co-sign that, especially when it's a man and a woman.
Nah, but I mean, a lot of people are fake upset though. So it's like, in the hood, you gonna see that shit all the time. You know what I mean? Like, you got pimp YouTubers. What the fuck you think they do?
Oh yeah,
that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? So like, a lot of people are like fake outrage, like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. When really, motherfuckers be doing that shit all the time. You know what I'm saying? That's just, it's unfortunate. It's a fucked up situation.
You know, listen, people love Don Magic Juan. I mean, he's someone I'm cool with. I've interviewed him. Snoop loves him. But, and I brought this up when I interviewed him because I read his books, he regularly beat his prostitutes. And he said, listen, when you tell, you know, one of your hoes to do something and they don't do it, and you tell them that if they continue not to do it, you're going to do something to them, you have to follow through on that. And he wasn't apologetic about it. He didn't feel sorry about it. He didn't feel regretful about it. He just said, this is part of the game. And you're absolutely right. Most pimps beat their women.
Yeah, I mean, even when it comes to like snitching, motherfuckers will get a pass all day on some domestic shit. It's like, it's just not considered like a big deal. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's something that happens a lot. It's just Diddy and the timing in which he came out and the fact that we're seeing it on video. You know, if we saw Rihanna get hit in her shit on video, it would have been a whole nother ball game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know, I've talked about this before. I think it's very equivalent because although you didn't see the video of Rihanna getting hit, you saw the pictures where she looked way worse than what Cassie looked like afterwards.
Right.
Because, you know, I remember they showed some pictures of Cassie a couple of days later, you know, at some award show or whatever, and you see, oh, look, she's got a little bruise on the back of her arm. No, like Rihanna's eyes were both like black and blue, and she couldn't open her eyes, and her face was all swollen and everything else like that. And if you think about it, Rihanna was a fairly big celebrity at this point. Cassie was that girl who had a hit 15 years ago. Like, the only reason you even knew about her is because it's Diddy's girlfriend. Rihanna actually had a real fan base. And, you know, I guess the question is, Chris Brown is doing a sold-out arena tour right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he knows he fucked up, though. He knows he fucked up. He was young as fuck when he did it. It's like, I don't think that somebody should forever be punished for something. But I just think it would have been that much worse if it was on video. Versus Diddy is in a situation where the world is against him because everyone's trying to find dirt on him. And then this comes out of nowhere after allegedly he paid however much money for the video to be deleted. And there's probably a whole much more shit that happened to Cassie that we'll never see or know about. This is just what got released.
Yeah. But if you look at the Chris Brown situation, do you think in a couple of years, Diddy could come out with an album and get a whole bunch of people to jump on it, do tours that people show up to, do projects, you know, and basically have the public forgive him?
Yeah. If he beats this case, yeah.
If he beats the case.
If he beats the case, if he doesn't beat it, nobody's going to want shit to do with him.
Well, if he doesn't beat it, he'll go to prison.
Yeah, so exactly. Nobody's going to want shit to do with him. But if he doesn't,
okay.
if he beats the shit.
Okay, so let's just say he pleads out to a year.
R. Kelly got fans.
Yeah.
If he gets out, they're still going to fuck with him.
Well, in fact, R. Kelly, when he had the video that everyone saw of him peeing on the underage girl, his career actually got bigger. He had bigger hit songs like the Ignition remix and all that. You know, Step in the Name of Love, that all came after the peeing video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I've been said this, like, the only way to really cancel someone, people love to use, oh, you're canceled. You know, Vlad, you're canceled now. It's over for you. Nah, the only way you could cancel someone is to put them in prison, kill them, or completely take away their ability to create any sort of product.
Or talk about gay people. They don't fuck off. They'll get you.
You can talk about gay people.
They'll get you. They'll get you canceled quick. There's a couple of things. You talk about gay people. You say the N-word, you'll get canceled. But
look, man, the baby said what he said about gay people, and yeah, he lost a few concerts here and there, but people still go to his shows. People still fuck with his music. Boosie said what he said. People still fuck with Boosie. You know, because at the end of the day, online outrage doesn't translate into reality 99% of the time.
Right.
It's just online outrage.
Yeah, I'd be having people saying, cancel me.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, people think because I get hated on online that everywhere I go, people hate on me, which is the exact opposite.
The exact
Whenever I leave the house.
Yeah. They want to take
opposite.
pictures with me. They want to do this.
Always.
They want to do, oh, let me FaceTime my brother.
Yes.
Everywhere. So it's, and people will act like it's a race thing. Like, oh, you're a white dude speaking on black people's business. I'd say 98% of the people that see me that are fans that want to take pictures and support me are black.
Yeah, me too.
So it's like the online perception is not reality at all.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Once you realize that, and once you've been through it once or twice, you just understand what it is.
Right.
Because not only is the online hate not based on what happens in real life, but the people who actually agree with you, 95% of them just don't say anything.
Yeah.
They'll be like, yeah, okay, that actually makes sense. I'm not going to sit there and talk about it because I'm going to get attacked by all the people who are vocal. Now, the people who totally disagree with you, they're very quick to tweet you or DM you or make videos about you or whatever else because they're trying to get their, you know, likes up and whatever else. But a lot of people, and you can usually see it when you see people voting. You know what I'm saying? Like if you see a vote and the votes are anonymous, you'll see that way more people agree with you than what you think.
Yeah,
but,
that's basically the anonymous votes are the views in my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm canceled, but I'll drop something and that bitch will be at 500,000 in a day. So I can't tell. You know what I mean? That's just how I look at it.
Well, you mentioned NBA Youngboy.
Right.
And you made a video about this. Is he really facing 250 years?
I think he's facing a little bit more. They dropped some charges and then they added more to it. So, but I mean, that's like if you total out everything. So and this is the thing, a lot of people are like, oh, that's clickbait. That's clickbait. When you get locked up for something, right? Say you catch a PBL, a punishable by life offense in the state of Florida. That could be an armed burglary. You break into someone's car, there's a gun, you steal that gun. This is your first felony arrest that you've ever had on your record. You might get fucking probation. You might get 3 years in prison. But on paper, you are charged with a PBL, which means punishable by life. You're facing up to life. So when you take into consideration the max punishments for all of his charges, yeah, he's facing 200 and whatever many years.
I mean, it's a sad situation because he
I
was
don't, I
on
don't think
bond.
so. I don't think it's sad at all.
Well, no. This is what I mean by that. What I was saying was, listen, no one wants to be on house arrest.
Yeah.
But being on house arrest in a mansion on 100 acres with all your kids coming to visit you, with your wife in the house, with artists coming to you to record with you, producers working on beats. I heard he made something like $100 million in the past year with all the music he put out. Having a fan base where you don't have to tour and people still will, support you and give you platinum records.
Yeah.
It's not ideal. I get it. Everyone wants to go outside and travel. I get it. But it's so much better than a jail cell.
Yeah, I mean, he's been riding on horses and shit.
Yeah.
Like, so if you can't do that, that kind of shows you ain't really ever been locked up like that. Because either that or you just don't give a fuck. That's what I'm thinking. He just don't give a fuck. It seems like he has a drug issue. What happened. And it's just something that he's got to get through and get over because everybody's fucking with his music. He can't be fucked with right now. The only thing fucking him up is himself.
Well, yeah. I mean, he got hit with 63 charges.
Yeah.
Not only was he calling in, doctors and getting pills, but he was having girls around him get pills for him, and I guess they all cooperated once they got caught. I mean, he's a junkie, essentially. I mean, and putting up an Instagram photo of you lying on the ground with a bunch of pills next to you, that's not going to help.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like looking at it going like, now, if you're not taking drugs, this is cool. Sure. Okay. This is an interesting promo piece. That's fine. But if you are on drugs, this is the worst thing you could be doing right now because now you're putting yourself on a big radar of, hey, is this guy getting pills? And sure enough, he was getting pills. He got sent back to Baton Rouge. But I think there's all these other cases that are going to keep him locked up for a while.
Yeah,
because he's not out.
The Fed case, because he violated the pretrial release.
So what does this mean? He's going to sit in jail until his trial?
I don't know. I mean, his lawyers are different. They might get him back out again. But for a normal person, yeah, if you fuck up and violate, you got to sit until sentencing.
So this could be, months, years, possibly?
Pretty much, however long it take.
Yeah, man, listen, he's still very young, man. He's in his early 20s. He got like 11 kids. We all mess up, but I think ultimately, if he doesn't somehow break his drug addiction, this is going to be a DMX situation.
Not,
he's
and
constantly
I mean,
in and out.
It just happened with the girl that was signed to Gucci.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, so I don't want to, but
Enchanting.
They say that she just passed away from a fake whatever, which was the same situation with the other kid, Sky. And, that's the thing that a lot of people need to understand too, bro, is like, when you take a picture with all the you influence other to do the same type of you know what I mean? Like, you're crying out for help, essentially. But then you got these middle school kids, high school kids that feel the same way. They're listening to yours. he's taking these, let me take these. But they don't have the resources to pretend to be an 83-year-old woman and fucking get pills from pharmacies. They're getting them off the streets where everybody's putting fentanyl on the shit. They take, they don't wake back up. It's fucked up right now, bro. The game is fucked. So it's like, unless you're getting it how he's getting it, everybody's dying. Lil Peep, same shit, fake. A lot of people, what was the girl, what was it, 3 6 Mafia?
Yeah, Gangsta Blue, that was my friend.
Fake.
Yes.
So it's like,
was it a pill or was it cocaine?
Or was it, I don't know. I think it was, I think it was in it though.
Yeah, I think it was, well, I think it was,
yeah,
what I heard. I may be wrong, but yeah, I just hung out with her a couple of weeks before that happened. It was fucked.
That's what's doing it to everybody, bro. So it's like, motherfucker, get away from that type of shit. Don't influence that type of
shit. Man, look, I was just in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and I was in the studio with this artist, and these two dudes come by, and they're like, "Oh, DJ Vlad, yo, bro, you're a legend, we love you." I'm like, "Okay, cool, man, thank you, I appreciate it." And I remember the artist that I was with left the room, and they were like, "Hey, man, you want to?" And I'm like, "No, I do not."
I'm good.
I'm like, "Yo, I haven't been offered cocaine in like 15 years. Like, this is crazy. I never do cocaine. I've never tried it." But the fact that, yo, like, these strangers are offering me when fentanyl is all over the place is just crazy. And I don't know them. They don't really know me. I mean, they know who I am, but they don't really know me. You know, I mean, what if I really was the feds? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then they offered me a ride home because my Uber was like delayed, and the artist was like, "Hey, man, Vlad, just chill, just wait for your Uber." And I'm thinking, I'm like, "Oh, yo, he probably did something like that."
Right.
You know, I get pulled over in the car, like, yo, it's just all bad. But the fact that people are still sniffing and still offering it to strangers and like that, I mean, really, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, I won't even take off of somebody I don't know.
Yeah, I smoke with people. I've done that.
Nah, smoking with somebody is different than you run into somebody and they just want to give you something.
Oh yeah, no.
Because they're not doing. If I see you hit it and you're still there, it's like, all right, then maybe yeah. But you're just giving me something and you're not gonna be there when I'm consuming this shit. I'm not going for that.
You know, speaking of Gucci Mane, you know, with Enchanting passing away, there's this this tweet that's going viral right now, and it basically shows all of Gucci Mane's members of the new 1017 label, and it's Enchanting, dead. Pooh Shiesty, locked up. Big Scar, dead. Fujiano, locked up. Keefe D, dropped. Roboy, dropped. So essentially, his entire label is either dead, locked up, or dropped.
Yeah.
All the members. 1, 2, 3, 4, all 6 members. None of them are in good shape.
Yeah.
And you know, people want to blame Gucci. I don't think Gucci got anything to do with any of this. You know, I mean, he's just a CEO.
When you hire, when you associate with gangsters, dead or in jail is like the 2 routes, right?
Yeah.
So when you got a motherfucker that's known as being a gangster, looking to sign people he sees himself in, it's just what the fuck happens. So it's like, you can't hold that against him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, Pooh Shiesty was probably the biggest artist that he signed in recent memory. But Pooh Shiesty had a history of crimes before he ever signed to Gucci. It ain't like, you know, he was like a school kid and Gucci suddenly put him in a bad direction. No, he was already doing it. Gucci wasn't around when he was doing all the crazy shit that got him locked up for. It just is what it is. But
Pooh Shiesty's in prison right now for shooting somebody in the ass with a Draco while sitting inside of a McLaren.
Yeah.
Some Grand Theft Auto shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's who he was before that. So it's like, that ain't a fucking surprise. And Gucci ain't gonna tell you, like, he can't just change who who you are as a person. So it's like, you know, but people come up with the conspiracy theories and the life insurance shit and whatever.
Yeah, I think one of the craziest things I heard in my new interview with Terrence Gangster Williams was when he was like 11 or 12 years old and he basically started shooting and killing people. Slim, you know, Birdman's brother, the co-CEO of Cash Money, pulled up at his house and had him sign a life insurance policy.
Mm.
And I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, okay, like the fact that one of your relatives, because, you know, that's your brother. I mean, they're brothers. You know, they have one different parent, but that's still brothers. The fact that you would have your brother sign a life insurance policy that you're the beneficiary of because he's out there doing stuff that's probably going to get him killed and you're going to profit off this is really, it's not something I would even think of.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing if you got a family. You should have that shit set up so that if something happens to you, your girl and your kids, they get all that shit. You know what I mean? But it's a smart business move. It's just fucked up when you think about it. Like, hey, there's a big chance you're gonna die. As a business guy, I don't want to invest all this money just to get fucked. There's no return because you got yourself in some shit.
But Terrence was never an artist. They're
Nah,
not
he was
investing
just
anything in him.
he was just smacking shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the president's son, Hunter Biden, found guilty on all 3 gun charges, facing up to 25 years in prison.
What the fuck kind of gun did he have? Because I thought it was only 10 for guns.
Yeah, I don't know. But I guess he was like, I think he was like a felon at the time or like a convicted drug user or something. He wasn't supposed to have the gun at all.
Right.
And he went and bought the gun anyways. And Joe Biden said that he's not going to pardon him once he gets, sentenced.
Yeah, Biden's fucking retarded too, because the same shit he's talking about with, we need more background checks and this and his own son.
Yeah.
It's like a big contradiction. I don't like Biden, to be honest with you, and all the shit that he's trying to do. I've never related to a president more than Trump now, because he's a felon. I'm a felon. We're felons together. Let's fucking do something for the felons and make it so that it's not as hard for us to get jobs and vote and fix the gun shit. Because, you know, he can't have a gun for life now.
Mm-hmm.
It's forever. I don't think that should be true. And matter of fact, they just, the 9th district, I think, they just appealed and released a guy out of California. He got caught with a gun as a felon. He appealed it saying it's unconstitutional to keep non-violent felons from owning guns after their sentences have been completed. And he fucking got his shit reversed and got out. So now it's in consideration that non-violent felons can have their gun rights restored after completion of their sentence.
Well, I've always believed that once you do your time, you should come out with a clean slate. Yeah. I don't believe in forever punishment. The fact that a felony follows you around for the rest of your life, stops you from getting jobs, stops you from renting apartments, stops you from carrying a gun if you were nonviolent. Now, I can understand if you kill somebody and you were convicted of it, it's probably not a bad idea to not have the ability to have a gun after that.
Yeah. But you know that you can't even have body armor as a felon. You can't have anything that would protect you as a felon. So it's like in Florida, there's another twist to it. You can't conceal any weapon as a felon. So if you have a knife that's deemed a weapon in your pocket in Florida, that's illegal. You can't conceal any weapon as a felon in the state of Florida. So it's like, The whole right to defend yourself is gone once you get that conviction. And the whole reason that they're reversing it is because when the Constitution was made, you didn't have all these extra felonies that we have now. Now there's a felony for fucking everything. Versus back then, if you did something serious enough for them to not let you have guns, they most likely just killed you. So it's like, I don't know, but shit gotta change.
Yeah, I remember me and Tony Yayo were having a conversation the other day about how, you know, this is something that 50 taught him, where he basically said, like, guns are not right for every occasion. Like, there are certain situations you should never have a gun in. And if you need to protect yourself, have a knife, have pepper spray, or, you know, bring other people and so forth. Like, you know, we were talking about the Taxstone situation where, like, Taxstone was attacked. And if you take a step back and you go to a place like Florida with Stand Your Ground, he was physically attacked, he was punched, he pulled out a gun and killed the guy. In Florida, if he had done this under a different situation, if he was a different type of person, he could have completely walked away from it. But he was a felon, so he wasn't allowed to have a gun, period.
Yeah.
And he pulled out that gun in a crowded nightclub with dozens of people around and shot and killed the guy. So there was really no way out of this situation.
Right.
If he had pulled out a knife and stabbed the dude and didn't kill him, yeah, a year or 2, 3 years maybe. If he had just gotten into a fist fight, even if he lost, nobody would have cared. Whatever. You know, he had Casanova with him. The two of them would have fought. They probably would have won anyways. But the fact that he pulled out a gun in this particular situation made it a situation where it was like, it's hard to get over it. And now he's doing 35 years.
Yeah.
And it's sad because this is my friend. Now he's basically saying how it should have run concurrent and he's in the process of appeal and he thinks it's going to get dropped or whatever else, you know, and I hope so. But, like, you can't just pull out a gun in any situation. You just can't.
And not in New York.
Especially not in New York.
You come down south, you can pretty much do that.
Right.
And
and especially in Manhattan.
That's why people have guns, because if you want to be the one that pulls out a knife, they're going to pull out the gun.
Right.
You know, and you'll end up with a gun charge instead of a murder charge. So it's like, which one you want?
Do you think Hunter Biden will get prison time? Really?
No, I don't. For his first conviction and who he is, nah. I don't think so.
Well, you know, you had mentioned Trump. Trump was found guilty on 34 felony counts.
Yeah.
The first U.S. president to get a felony. Do you think Trump is going to go to prison?
No.
I
don't think so. I honestly hope he becomes president again.
I don't see how he's not going to get elected. I am fairly sure at this point that he's going to get elected.
Yeah.
Unless they somehow stop him from running. But I even heard that the whole RICO case that's happening in Georgia, it's been delayed and there's no way they can really stop it.
I mean, I think that them fucking him over with this case is doing the opposite of what they wanted, because people have been getting fucked over for decades. Now it's happening to somebody that they're targeting politically. But the people that have been fucked over are relating to him even more because he's going through it. So it's like, I don't see that working on Biden's behalf or whatever, how that was supposed to play out. So, and then he can barely even fucking talk and stand up. So I don't know who the fuck would be dumb enough to go that way. But, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, it's not like Biden won by a landslide. I mean, he definitely won, but it wasn't by a landslide. And Trump was way more unpopular back then.
Well, I think
And
that
Biden
people,
was way more popular back then.
there's certain ways to sway the crowd. One of the biggest ones is the race shit. You know,
Hmm.
everybody wanted to paint Trump as a racist. If you had a MAGA hat, you were racist. And even with things coming out on Biden, you know, they had a speech or whatever it was come out on Biden where he was talking about he doesn't want his kids going to mixed schools because he doesn't want them growing up in a jungle. So it's like
Oh,
he's got shit that he's said before, but you know, people will sway things how they want to sway things. And I feel like a lot of people have woken the fuck up and they can see him for who he is and they see Trump now for who he is and they're leaning more towards him.
well, since our last interview, the Kendrick Lamar and Drake battle happened.
Yeah. That shit was crazy.
Yeah. Well, Kendrick dropped Euphoria, and he basically called Drake a snitch. He said, "We ain't gotta get personal. There's a friendly fade. You should keep it that way. I know some shit about N-words that make Gunna Wanna look like a saint." So he's
Yeah.
basically saying, "Oh yeah, Gunna snitched. Based on what you did, you're snitching. It's nothing compared to what Gunna did."
Yeah.
So Drake responded on The Heart Part 6. And he said, "First, if I was a rat, so where's the proof of the trial then? Where's the paperwork or the cabinets filed in? 1090 Jake would have taken all the walls down. The streets would have had to be hiding out in a small town."
Yeah.
How did it feel to have your name mentioned during the biggest battle of this era?
Yeah, that shit was crazy because I didn't know. I just started receiving texts like, yo, fuck it, you did it. I'm like, I did what? You know what I mean? And then people start sending me the link. I'm like, oh shit. You know, at that time, I had just came down to Florida and I'm at a B&B, you know what I'm saying, with the family and shit. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta go out. Like, why do you gotta go? I was like, nah, I gotta go celebrate. I gotta go pop a bottle of something. So I went out that night. I hit the strip club and hung the fuck out. But yeah, that was crazy because I didn't expect that.
Hmm.
And knowing what I know behind it as far as like the snitch allegations, you know, I even DM'd Drake and told him like I was gonna cover it, but their beef like faded and there was so little to cover. So basically Drake got robbed in the situation. They took his shit, but they did the robbery in front of the police outside of like some bougie ass restaurant. So they didn't even get away. They got grabbed at the scene, whatever, whatever. Drake lost the AP, whatever the fuck. They got picked up for it. Now, somebody that I think Drake worked with at one point in time, this black dude from Canada, he's the one that came out and said, "Oh, I got paperwork," and all he showed was like an affidavit, basically naming the two people that got booked for it and saying that Drake was the victim. Nothing about cooperation, no statement, none of this shit. So I even actually reached out to the guy that dropped the paperwork. And he's basically like, "Oh yeah, bro, I seen it. I don't have it, but I seen it." And I was like, "Yeah, this is a dead end. There's nothing on him." You know what I mean? So it was just something somebody threw out early in his career and people try to make it stick, but there was never actually anything saying Drake snitched on anybody.
Okay. So you're talking about the line, I mean, it's true, N-word slime me from my AP.
Yeah.
So, okay, so here we go. So I looked this up. So in 2009, Drake was robbed. This is according to Genius. It says he and his date had finished eating at a restaurant, had walked to Drake's SUV on Beatrice Street. Moments later, after they got in the vehicle, two armed men approached Drake and demanded his money and jewelry. The then 23-year-old rapper complied, giving the perpetrators $2,000 in cash, an Audemars Piguet watch, and a diamond chain Lil Wayne had gifted him. So two guys rolled up on him, coming out of a restaurant. They took him for $2,000 cash, a chain, and his AP watch.
Yeah.
But then they got caught right away. So is Kendrick kind of implying that he cooperated with the police on this?
Yeah, he's going along with what the guy from Canada was implying. So the guy from Canada worked with Drake early in his career. That guy's career went nowhere. And he was basically just hating on Drake. And Kendrick just reignited the old rumor about him.
Okay. Are you talking about this dude, Baka Not Nice? Because he was kind of dragged in this whole thing also.
I forget the dude's name. He's black. He's fat. They got an old ass music video on YouTube. I mean, the guy like has no followers on any social media platform anymore. His old Twitter got deleted. He deleted all the tweets. He's not even talked about anymore. But that's the guy that originally tweeted the picture of the arrest affidavit.
Okay. So did you and Drake communicate? Did he ever respond to you or anything?
Nah, he followed me on the gram.
Okay.
That's all he needed to do, and I was ready to go to war. But nah, he followed me on the gram, and I told him, I was like, yo, next time you ever in the city, hit me up, whatever. And that was it. And then cause he followed me off of the Rick Ross situation. That's how I got tied into it. And then after that situation is when he mentioned me in the song.
I mean, it's a big mention.
Yeah, he got me verified on Instagram off of that. You know, motherfuckers, because now they do this shit for like $15, but you got to put your real name on it and shit. And then before that, you have people paying like 10 bands just to get verified. So Drake got me verified. Well worth it.
Nice.
Yeah, appreciate you.
To me, the beef back and forth ended when Drake's bodyguard got shot in front of his house.
Yeah, that's when it went from fun to let's stop this. Because before that, it was like, okay, hip hop, back to back. Like, you know what I'm saying? That shit, I think everybody was liking it. Because it's like, that's what hip hop is supposed to be. And then somebody gets shot and it's like, oh, fuck, here we go.
Right. I remember me and Boosie had a whole conversation about this on camera where it was like, what if Drake's son was outside when this was happening?
Yeah.
And Drake's son gets shot and killed. Which, listen, Drake's son is at his house all the time. You see videos and whatever else. What would have, if just by chance his son decides to wander outside and, see what's going on in the street and then boom, the shooting occurs.
Yeah.
And, when you say close to home, this is actually at his home. Now, did Kendrick have anything to do with the shooting? No, I don't think so. My guess has always been that, on one of the songs, I think was it Family Matters, he disses The Weeknd and calls him a druggie and, said that, he pays all these street guys to be around him. My guess is that someone around that situation got pissed off because it's in Toronto and took it upon themselves to do this shooting. That's what I think. I don't have any proof. No one's reached out to me. I just assumed if it's some Toronto shit, it's some Toronto shit. I don't see Kendrick somehow manipulating people in Toronto to do something. Like, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, nah, it's probably just somebody, from his own city that is just hating.
Yeah.
Decided to do something that they know would get a lot of attention. But the second somebody gets shot, like, that's just not funny anymore. It's not something. Before that, it was great. After that, it's like, all right, because imagine if Drake or Kendrick died. Then,
like Biggie and Tupac.
Then none of it is worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just shows shows you how serious shit can be, though. And that's hip hop. Motherfuckers been getting killed since it started. So it's like,
yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, this is really one of the ugliest battles in hip-hop history, if not the ugliest battle. I mean, Kendrick does a whole thing about Drake being a pedophile, which, doesn't seem to be true. Drake accused of one of Kendrick's kids to be not his kid, which doesn't appear to be true either. So there's just a lot of very ugly mudslinging that has nothing to do with the music whatsoever.
Right.
It's just gossipy. Like, if these guys weren't as rich as they were, there would be lawsuits filed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you call me a pedophile on a hit record, like, yo, I'm suing.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to affect my business.
Well, then
Like
you
nobody.
gotta look at it from another perspective too, right? Is if he's sued, then they're gonna try to capitalize off of the snitch shit even more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because I had somebody drop fake paperwork on me.
Yeah.
Like, prove the whole thing was fake. Like, call the Tampa Police Department. I put it on YouTube. Hey, y'all call TPD and request this fucking document right here. Completely proven it's fake. But now if I sue the motherfucker that dropped it, oh, you snitching, you sue. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do a fuck thing. So it's like they would have just went with that narrative if he tried to do that, you know? So it's just crazy.
Man, listen, I had a female that was mad at me over a video I posted, and she put up a picture of a naked guy with his legs over his head, with the face fuzzed out, like, oh, this is Vlad. And I'm looking at this picture going, like, this definitely is not me. The guy's got earrings.
Yeah.
First of all, I've never had earrings in my life. You know, you can look at every picture that I've ever done. And I'm like, this isn't me. And I'm like, yo, like, and she's like, okay, I'll say it's not you. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, this just isn't me. But the internet will run with the shit. It'll just run with it. Like, it's crazy. And then you think about how you're going to handle it, because it's like, okay, if I publicly address it, it's just going to bring more attention to it.
Yeah,
So I had to have the person who posted it publicly address it. So then when she publicly addressed it, then I hit up a couple of Twitter pages that had posted it, be like, yo, look, she's saying it's fake. Can y'all take this down, please? They're like, yeah, no problem. You know what I mean? And I would have to start suing people. But yeah, man, it's the internet is ugly. And you know, you got to swim in these waters.
Right.
Well, you know, Boosie, he was really against the whole battle, because from his point of view, 95% of the murders that happened in his city in Baton Rouge were over rap beef.
Yeah.
And look, you're in Florida right now. You look at, you know, Fulio and Young and Ace and, you know, all those guys from Jacksonville. A lot of those murders stem from rap beef.
Yeah, I mean, drill kind of made that a category. So it's like a lot of people getting killed over rap beef right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's sad. And I remember I tried to disagree with him, and I started to go down the line of all the famous rap beefs, and he kind of had a point. A lot of the people in these rap beefs, some of them got killed, some of them got shot, violence occurred. You know what I mean? Like, it was every so often, yes, it's just on record, but a lot of times, I would almost say maybe 66% of the time, probably about 2/3, something violent happened.
Yeah.
And maybe 10% of the time, people die. You know, like the Young Dolph, you know, Yo Gotti situation. Yeah. You know, or Tupac and, you know, and Biggie. Like you see that type of shit occur. And, you know, I mean, he's got a point. He's got a point. Like, if you step into that arena, you have to be prepared to possibly die. Chrisean Rock got arrested going to Blueface's court hearing.
Yeah.
You follow this at all?
She's a mess. So she had warrants, but she showed up to court. Like, the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, me and Wack talked about this earlier today, or actually yesterday. And I guess from her point of view, she was like, "Oh, my warrant's in Oklahoma or something. And, you know, they're not gonna go all the way out there to, you know, arrest me, you know, whatever." But she had been going to court multiple times.
Right.
And, you know, people are taking videos of it. You know, she's basically, I think she told, you know, the Oklahoma judge to go fuck himself and something. So now you have this child who seems to be disabled.
Yeah.
Because Chrisean Rock was getting high during her pregnancy. This is established. This is not me guessing. You know, I remember I interviewed academics who was on FaceTime with her when she was like 8 months pregnant. She's smoking a blunt.
Yeah.
On FaceTime. So you got this child that appears to be mentally disabled, Both of the child's parents are in jail. And then there's a video that surfaced when Chrisean gets arrested, Blueface's parents are there, and neither one of them wants to take the baby.
Yeah.
So now the baby is with Chrisean's friend. Like, I've been in some toxic relationships before, but this right here, I can't even relate to what's happening.
Yeah, I don't even know how she still has custody.
Well, she doesn't. She's in jail.
Now, but I mean,
Yeah.
if you're getting fucked up the whole time you're pregnant and then your kid clearly has issues and then you're still wilding out, I don't know. But the fucking parents don't want the kid neither. So it's like,
Well, yeah. I mean, and usually the grandparents are the ones who step up. But you got two grandparents that are trying to be social media stars themselves, and they don't want to take care of a disabled kid. They're literally arguing in the courthouse. The dad's like, I ain't trying to be a babysitter. And it's just like, and then from what I understand, the reason why she was even at the court case, where they're saying the Blueface allegedly got caught with meth in his jail cell.
wilding. Whole situation's crazy.
Whole situation's crazy. And he's in jail because I believe he had like a warrant in Vegas and he wasn't supposed to go there. And Chrisean basically just convinced him to go to Vegas.
Yeah, they gotta
So
be
he
like
goes to-
the most toxic fucking couple in history. I don't know. It's like past the point of entertainment. You know what I mean? It's just I think everybody's just tired of the shit.
Well, you made a few more videos. You made a recent one about Finesse 2 times.
Yeah.
So what's new about Finesse 2 times?
Ain't nothing new, really. I mean, he told 2 times. So it's like, it is what the fuck it is. Motherfuckers just wanted me to make a video about it. And I made a video, and it is what it is.
Yeah. But, seems like his career is still underway.
Yeah,
the snitching stuff just doesn't matter.
Nah, that's the thing. Like, cause he's still under Jay Prince and all them, and they're known and respected. And they were, when the whole shit happened with Takeoff, they made a video talking about how the alleged shooter, they said he was doing things that they thought was snitching. And no one said nothing about Finesse. The only one that really went at Finesse was Honeycomb Brazy. So.
Yeah. Listen, when Finesse 2 times made the post about that y'all need to stop killing these rappers, start killing these bloggers, from that point on, I said, all right, you on that side now. You're not on this side anymore. I'm not interested in interviewing you. I'm not interested in shielding you from any of the negativity. If it's fuck us, then fuck you too. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and I mean, I even got the fucking, I think it was 3 co-defendants that he told on. I tapped in with all of them. They all sent me videos like, yeah, he snitched on me. Yeah, the case is real. So it's not even up for debate. Like, motherfuckers know it. It's just people don't care.
Well, you made a video about Rod Wave. So there was a quadruple shooting that happened?
Yeah.
So tell me about the situation.
I mean, the police are alleging the whole thing. A video came out and you see, I think it was 3 dudes and then 1 fat dude. And everybody assumed the fat dude was Rod Wave, but it wasn't. And, a shooting went down. The shooting, the people leave. They drive to a house. The house is rented by Rod Wave. I believe the cars were under Rod's name. The houses get hit. They find guns and shit in the house. He was too close to motherfuckers that made a dumb decision. And he's lucky that it hasn't put him in any situation.
Well, but he himself was not the person in the video, right?
No.
So how is he connected to this on any capacity?
Well, because the dudes that did it are affiliates of his, and then they used his vehicles and were using his houses. So it looks like all roads lead back to him, but at this time he isn't charged with anything.
I mean, if some guys I know, I let them use my car and stay in one of my houses because I'm rich, and they go and do something crazy. I mean, look, Michael Vick went to prison for the dogfighting situation, which is somewhat similar to the situation you're talking about. A bunch of guys that are using his facilities and stuff like that. But some of those guys snitched and tried to say that he was aware of it and he was okay with it.
Right.
Now, unless these guys who are affiliated with Rod Wave turn around and somehow put him in that situation, say that he told us to go do this, I don't see where there's a problem.
Yeah, he should be good. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, for me, doing the video, it was more so clearing up. Everybody posted it on the blogs, like, oh, Rod Wave seen on camera pointing, and then they shoot. Like, that ain't him. The affidavit came out, the pictures came out, but nobody on social media wanted to correct it because it's a better headline to be like, oh, that's Rod Wave. So, I corrected it. And was like, nah, that ain't him. But this is what the affidavit is saying. This is what they're alleging. Weed in different houses, whether they're trying to say they were selling it or whatever. Guns in the different houses. And everything is under his name. Just for him, you got to be smooth when it comes to who's around you, so something they do doesn't come back on you. But
well, you made a video about the hood fishing guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had seen some of his videos, but explain to me who he is exactly.
A hood fisherman. he's a black man with gold teeth that's fishing and living life.
Right. But then he got shot 4 times.
Yeah.
Recently?
Yeah.
Over what?
Well, come to find out, he has a whole fucking history. So, this is the video that they wanted to cancel me for right here, right?
Okay.
This isn't the first time they tried to kill him. They tried to kill him back in the day. He's from Fort Myers. He's from a hood. He's from an actual hood. They tried to kill him back in the day, and he snitched. He fully cooperated, wanted to cooperate, wanted to press charges. There's no fucking debating on what he did. That's what he did. But this kid was like the star athlete. He was a football player, whatever. And he snitched on these 2 people that shot him or grazed him. They both end up going to prison. One gets a YO sentence, a youth offender sentence, so it was reduced. It wasn't much time. The other one takes it to trial. The kid that takes it to trial gets hit with like 20 years. The other one ended up, I think it was less than 6. He ends up getting out, and then he gets killed after he gets out alongside his father. This shooting pretty much ignited a war between 2 different hoods. And it came down to the hood fisherman was fucking another dude's girl or sister. I forget exactly what it was. But a female associated with one of the shooters. So they ended up shooting him. They go to prison. One of them gets out, dies. And it's been up ever since. Now, Hood Fisherman was actually associated with a rap group, 5150 Committee. That whole group is pretty much extinct. They all got killed. One of them got locked up for a murder. All the other ones got murdered. And then I think there was one more who just became like a tattoo man or some shit. But the Hood Fisherman can be seen in these music videos holding up big ass guns, and that was his group. He's in pictures on his old Facebook, which is still public, holding up plenty of guns. And I mean, that's like a Florida thing. That's not that crazy to see. But he was associated with the group that was tied to murders and got murdered. essentially changed his life. And they say that shit caught up with him. You know what I mean? And a lot of people were mad that I broke it down the way I did.
So the situation recently where he got shot 4 times, that's over that old beef, allegedly?
Allegedly. That's what I've been told.
Okay.
You know, these people, they've been trying to kill him for fucking years. So it just came back. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like, oh, how did he snitch? He changed his life. He's this. And that has nothing to fucking do with the fact that he cooperated. I mean, when I read the sentencing transcripts, he's the sole witness and the sole reason that dude is still in prison right now. The dude he told on, one's dead, the other one's still in prison. So you can change your life, you can whatever the fuck you want to do, but he still feels some type of way, and his hood still feels some type of way, because you essentially got rid of 2 of them. So it's like, no matter what you do in the eyes of that, you're the hood fisherman. You have a hood persona. You have a hood that's actively trying to kill you for snitching. But everybody fucking Bass Pro Shops got mad that I said that he snitched. It's like, this is the reason he's getting shot at. I don't know why this is hard to fucking understand. If King Von became a fucking pastor, that wouldn't have stopped everybody that was beefing with him. Just because he changed his life, nobody's going to forget what happened. So it's like same shit, same situation. And you know, there's a lot of things in the background I didn't put in the video that are just merely accusations, allegations. But people are trying to say that the hood fisherman, you know, he wasn't an angel either. So it's like, it's one of them.
Well, another video you made was about Gface.
Yeah.
Now, Gface, who I've never met, but he seemed like he did multiple interviews on No Jumper.
Yeah.
And some pretty crazy accusations came out about him.
Yeah. Gface is an Armenian who rolled with the Southsiders, the Serranos, in California State Prison. He claimed to have done, like, I think 22 years straight or 20 years straight, something like that. And he got picked up on Fed charges. And there was the allegation that he snitched in a shooting because the guy appealed it. You know, normally you can't get California paperwork. But the guy appealed it, and in the appeal, it says that Gface testified that that was the person that shot at him. So he already had that stamp that he ratted, but then again, he had that same person saying, oh no, that's not how it was, whatever, whatever. Like, he had the excuse lined up. People were assuming he paid dude off because Gface was getting to some money. There was a video of him gifting Kevin Gates a Rolex, and Kevin Gates just seems like, why the fuck you even giving this to me? Like, he tried to do a lot of things with money, most likely buy friendships. He did an interview with somebody that Wack knows and said that they met at this point in time when in reality they didn't meet there. They met outside of prison. So his whole story was kind of fucked, right? And what ended up happening was he gets picked up because he was doing PPP loans. So he was doing the PPP shit, whatever, whatever. He had his own business. He basically did a trucking business, but figured out the hottest part of starting a trucking business is starting it. So if you've got $5,000 or you got $20,000 in the bank, give me 5 and I'm going to give you a course. I'm going to teach you from A to B, A to Z, whatever, how to fucking start this shit. He ended up running up $3.5 million doing this on Instagram. So he made a legal bag, but he did the PPP shit before that. So the feds, 2024, they come get him and his wife for the loans, right? Within his federal affidavit, the lawyer puts in a motion for him to be released, saying, hey, Gface is in protective custody right now at San Bernardino County Jail because they know that he's an informant. They know he's cooperated against the Mexican Mafia, Serrano, every fucking body, right? So it breaks down pretty much all the snitching that he's done. And this is his lawyer that exposed it all.
Wow.
So it breaks down how long he's been in prison, how he lied about his whole 22-year bid, how the prison times never added up. He lied about why he went to prison. He snitched when he originally went to prison, was stabbed in prison, snitched on them for stabbing him, did a whole bunch of time in protective custody. Like, his whole story was pretty much fabricated and exposed because he was trying to get out of the feds. So once I broke it down and did the video on it and the paperwork, I mean, he's even currently snitching. There's a rapper out of LA named Bozo, who I believe has also been on No Jumper. This might be another interview for you. And Gface said, yeah, this rapper came to my house and took pictures of my wife and kids and texted it to me, you know, as a threat. And Gface was telling the courts, if y'all let me access my phone, I can show you that the threat on my life is very real and they're still trying to kill me. I don't want to get sent back to Armenia because apparently he's a fucking alien. He's not even an immigrant. And the Armenians in California, when they go to prison, they pretty much fall under the Mexicans. So he feels like if he gets deported back to Armenia, because of how many people have been deported that still have ties to the Sureños and the Mexican mafia, if he gets deported, he'll get killed. So he gave all these reasons for them to let him out, and it pretty much exposed him. And then the video comes out, the lawyer files another motion saying, oh no, it was just made up. My client never snitched on anybody. None of this is true. We shouldn't have said it. I fucked up. My bad. Da-da-da. But it's already out there. So.
Well, he cooperated against the Mexican mafia?
They've been saying that for years he's been cooperating, whatever. Apparently he was cooperating in the street against people selling drugs in the neighborhood, and they found out, and that's how they put a green light on him. He ended up getting stabbed, whatever. Now, there was one case when he didn't snitch because he already snitched. And basically these guys tried to attack him and he stabbed one of them. And the police were like, look, if you're going to go the defense route, you have to cooperate against them. And he said, I'm not snitching in this case. I snitched on the last one, and this is why I'm in this fucking predicament. So he ended up having to do like 7 years or some shit off of that case for not snitching, but he already did snitch. So it's like his whole situation is fucked. And apparently, you know, the names and shit that's been brought up, people are putting a clock on his life right now. They're saying, like, you know, those organizations are dead serious out there. So he's in a fucked up situation.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to snitch on anybody, I think the Mexican mafia would probably be the lowest person, the lowest organization on the list.
Yeah, I didn't really.
Those guys are serious. And I remember, not to interrupt you, but I remember when I interviewed Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
Who was affiliated with the Mexican mafia and, you know, knew the leaders and everything else like that. We talked about the movie American Me, where after they showed the leader of the Mexican mafia being raped in Juvenile, the Mexican mafia was so upset that I think 10 people got killed.
Yeah.
That were affiliated with the movie. Like because there was, you know, they had actual gang members who were in the movie, who were used as consultants, whatever else. It was essentially a bloodbath that happened. And Edward James almost had a green light on him for a long time. So those guys there, you know, and I remember even, you know, interviewing guys that were like Sureños and stuff like that. And they were saying how when they were younger, their goal was to do life in prison and be a shot caller at like Pelican Bay. You know what I mean? Like the way those guys are brought up and their mentality,
no,
they don't mind doing prison time.
They're different.
Yeah.
And you can sense the power in the name because there's YouTube channels that covered Gface that wouldn't even say the name of the organization. They just said the organization. So, you know, he got himself in a fucking situation, and you know, he put himself in that situation.
Well, since our last interview, I did an interview with Trap Lord Ross.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was like our last interview where you were like, yeah, you know, that King Von serial killer documentary was like almost the whole thing was accurate.
Yeah.
You know, which actually got me kind of interested in the whole thing. And, you know, we did a whole interview and he kind of broke down why King Von was a serial killer. And he kind of was like, here's all the people that he, you know, almost definitely killed. Here's the people that he was probably blamed for, that he probably had nothing to do with. And he kind of like broke it down to the point where it was like, after a lot of these murders would occur, King Von would jump on Twitter and make little snide comments kind of alluding to his, you know, being part of these murders in some type of way.
Right.
Based on what you know and what you've seen, do you think King Von was a serial killer?
I mean, yeah. You know, it's like he was smacking shit, and everybody knows it. It's not a fucking secret. He wanted everybody to know it. He enjoyed what he was doing. So, yeah.
I interviewed Trench's News recently, and, you know, he felt that when King Von died, he was relieved. He says some people just need to be gone.
Yeah.
They're just causing too much chaos in these cities. You know, he also took the stand in the FBG Duck O Block 6 trial. And also, you know, we talked about the fact that he did cooperate with the feds and he was a paid informant. I mean, he denied getting paid, but it is what it is. A lot of people, of course, are going to call him a snitch and so forth. But, you know, a lot of conversations I had offline with, you know, older people were like, you know, this guy is one of the few voices of reason out there. Like, you don't really want people out there killing people constantly and glorifying it. I mean, how do you feel about someone like a Trench's News?
I mean, he's a fucking snitch. It's like, like you wasn't even in the shit. You just decided to fucking put yourself in it. And then now, you know you got to stand on it because you can't go the gangster route. You know what I'm saying? That's why I never understood why he wore, like, the shiesty. Because everybody that wears that mask, they wear it for the image of, you know what I'm saying? Shooters is wearing that shit. Motherfuckers that's hiding from their ops is wearing it. You wearing that shit because you in disguise because you trying to be fucking Batman in Chicago. So it's like, now you got to stand on it. And now I feel like he's just doing the whole, there's going to be a crowd that sympathizes with me and what I'm saying, and he's entertaining that crowd.
I mean, look, man, I'm 50. I'm going to be 51 in a couple of weeks. A lot of this stuff, when it comes to cooperating, people group it into one thing, but the way I view it is that there's different levels to this. If you and I get caught in a crime and I tell on you to try to walk away free, I consider that snitching. If I seen you kill 3, you know, teenagers and I go to the police and report it, I don't consider that snitching. I consider that, you know, me doing a civic duty to try to make this community a safer place.
Right.
That's my point of view. But then again, I'm not a criminal. I've never done any real prison time. I'm not in the streets like that. I'm just viewing it as a, you know, from my point of view. You know, there's that famous 60 Minutes episode where Cameron gets asked whether he would call the police if there's a serial killer next door, and he said no, he would move.
Yeah.
To me, that's crazy.
Well, I think this is an important thing with that, right? You can do your civic duty. Just don't feel no type of way when you get called a snitch. And that's the thing. That's the problem. Is motherfuckers will be like, no, I'm doing my civic duty, but I'm not a snitch. You either are or you aren't. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people will agree with what you just said, but they don't want to have that title. And that's what the fuck comes with that title. Like, you know, he was apparently close with Duck and felt like he
Yeah.
owed it to Duck to cooperate. Well,
Yeah.
I ask myself this. Would Duck fuck with you if he knew you cooperated?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, when Duck died, a lot of shit changed for the people associated with him. You know what I mean? And basically his whole camp fell apart.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I interviewed FBG Butter about this whole situation, and, you know, with the Trenches News interview, it's not like Trenches News was like a 9-to-5 guy who just happened to witness some stuff. He was actually mixed up in some of this stuff. He'd been shot 2 times. You know, he had robbed people before. He had been involved in various crimes. And at one point, he just said, well, I think for him, it seemed like the turning point was like when he got shot up and he got put in a wheelchair. A lot of people who he felt should have been there for him all turned his back, you know, on him. His girl ended up robbing him and leaving him. All the so-called homies that were supposed to ride for him, none of them wanted any piece of the problem. And I think he just looked at the whole situation and said, you know, a lot of this loyalty and respect and affiliation that I thought that I could stand on when things go bad for me are all lies.
It's a facade, but everybody knows that.
Yeah.
You know that when you're in it. So it's like to use that as justification for you turning into what you turn into. And then, I mean, he was doing the YouTube shit before he got exposed. So it's not like he just came out and said, hey, I'm Batman in Chicago. Like, he was trying to act like he was still in some shit and just really connected to everything. But then he got exposed and he had to stand on it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, dude. I don't feel no type of fucking way about him. You know what I mean? But it's just whatever.
Well, look, man, I mean, I remember my interview with Freeway Ricky Ross is what kind of brought clarity on this subject with me when, you know, Freeway was one of the biggest drug dealers in America, and his own plug turned on him and gave him a life sentence. And in the beginning, he was angry. He was like, how could this guy do this? We made hundreds of millions of dollars together, whatever. And then one day he woke up and said, snitching is part of crime. I can't get mad at it. I just have to accept it and try to work my way out of it.
Right.
The end. And, you know, he worked his way out of it. He got his life sentence tossed out. He did whatever, 20 years, and now he's out being a regular business person. Not doing any crimes, nothing. And I think that people need to just sort of accept that. Like, if you're going to decide to do crimes and you're going to involve other people, there's a very high chance, a 80, 90% chance that they're going to turn against you. They're going to tell on you.
Right.
And that's it. And you could get mad at it and you could call people names, but they're going to tell on you. People around you are going to tell on you. You know, if you try to involve as few people as possible, because, I mean, look at BMF. All types of people in BMF told on each other and brought down that whole organization. Big Meech is still locked up. You know, Southwest T, who I finally, me and him talked for the first time like a few months ago. The only reason he got out is because he was in poor health during COVID. He used to be locked up along with Meech right now. He got lucky. They got like 25-year plea deals. I mean, that's a hellacious fucking number.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it just is what it is. Well, last question. And you actually are watching this interview right now. I did an interview with Charles Pee Wee Goldsmith, who was one of the presidents of the Hells Angels.
Right.
You talked about how all this gang shit is a lie. I mean, he actually named the book that. He said, Brotherhood, the greatest lie ever told. And he talked about his whole situation in the Hells Angels. Have you ever encountered Hells Angels at all?
I've seen them in Massachusetts. They're not in Florida. I think Florida is like outlaws and shit, but they're
Yeah.
definitely in Mass. I've never like had an interaction. I've just seen them.
Yeah. Hell's Angels are serious, man. Hell's
Yeah.
Angels, I remember he told some stories. There was a guy that was in prison, this mixed guy, right? He was black and white. And he convinced, the prison tattoo guy to tattoo some Hell's Angels logos on him.
Right.
And when they found out that this happened and he's not affiliated with the Hell's Angels, they kidnapped him, beat the shit out of him, and then took him to a tattoo parlor and covered up all the tattoos. And then went and beat up the tattoo artist for doing it.
And then got him. Yeah, I mean, they got a reputation for not fucking off. That's one of those groups that, they're organized and they get shit done.
Yeah, and there's lots of situations I heard about these tattoos being burned off and, you know what I mean? Like putting brands on people's arms and, removing them that way and so forth. But I asked him, I said, why do you never have black people in the Hells Angels? And he actually gave a very interesting answer. He said, well, the reason is because a lot of Hells Angels are in prison. And when riots, start, everyone has to take a racial line.
Okay.
So if you have a black Hells Angel, he's going to have to side with the blacks and not the whites.
Yeah.
And that would put people in precarious positions. So in order to avoid that, they just have only white members in the Hells Angels. Basically, black people are not allowed to be Hells Angels?
They didn't have black people in the club. They thought it was like a racist thing. They did it because it was all to do with going to prison, how they're segregated in the prison. There's no way you can walk into the prison, trust me, after me being there, now knowing, it's harder when you've never been to prison like I wasn't before. Hearing it, you're like, well, is it really that bad? Yeah, it is that bad. I could not walk in there with a black guy and say, hey, this is my brother. Hey, we're staying together. We'd either get killed by his, black group or a white group. They ain't tolerating it. They're very, very segregated, and you don't go in their areas or anything. So how would that really work out? You know what I mean?
Okay, so it was a prison thing. It wasn't really a racist thing.
It was a prison thing. It wasn't a racist thing.
Right, because you can't be a black Hells Angel in prison because you'd be caught in the middle of racial riots, essentially.
Yeah, that sounds like California politics. That shit's confusing as fuck. Because, they got, like, Armenians, which I think is white. They roll with the Mexicans. And then you have black Serranos. You have white Crips and Bloods. Shit gets tricky. But the politics out there, I don't know. I'd never experienced that. In Florida, it's different.
Okay, you're a white blood.
Yeah.
So when fights broke out in prison, would you have to stand with the Bloods or would you stand with the white boys?
There was no white boys.
Oh.
White isn't a fucking factor in Florida State Prison.
Aha.
They don't even matter. Like, they don't have Aryan Brotherhood and none of that shit. They got the Unforgiven. The Unforgiven, not to shit on them, because they got some real ones that are in that group. But a lot of them are just, like, leftover white boys. You know what I mean? This white kid might have been a GD on the street. He come to prison and the blacks tell him, like, yeah, you're not GD. They flip him, whatever. I knew a kid that this was his life story. He was GD on the street, came to prison. They cut his throat on the yard with a box cutter. So he got stitches from here to here. And he became Unforgiven and put the thunderbolts in between his eyes, swastika on the back of his head. And he was bout it for them. Like, he was going in, stabbing shit, getting stabbed, whatever. But they're not really a factor compared to the Bloods, Crips, Kings. And it's still like, you're not going to really see white Bloods in Florida State Prison. You're more likely to see white Crips, white GDs. And it's never really an issue with white people. It's more so an issue with your own gang, whether they're going to accept you or not. That's what because I've seen Black Latin Kings. I've seen, obviously, you got Spanish, Bloods, Crips, whatever. But whites are like the bottom of the food chain in Florida State Prison. There's nothing for you.
Okay, so in these situations in prison where you have a fight break out between the blacks and the Latinos, when you have a black, Mexican mafia member or a Latino Crip, what happens in those situations?
It's all just gang shit. Whatever gang you're a part of, like we don't really have like the race riots in Florida like that. Like you don't really, if it's on like a race tip, it'll be like the Bloods versus the Kings, the Crips versus the Kings. That's when you see that divide. And normally, if you're Spanish but you're Blood, you're still gonna ride with the Bloods. You just might be the number one target for the Kings because you're Hispanic. You know what I'm saying? So they might want to get you even more just to prove a point. Like I've been to a spot where a lot of kids were coming in that were Spanish in different gangs. They all had to become king or they got taken off the compound. So it'd be like shit like that. You know what I mean? But we don't really have like a whole bunch of whites over here, a whole bunch of blacks over there, and they just fucking collide. Like we don't, that's not in Florida. That's more out west.
Last question. And I always give very different answers, it seems, when I ask this question to people. If you were to look at all the people that you've been locked up with as an adult, what percentage of those people are there because of a woman? When I say this, I don't mean the situations directly having to do with a woman. I mean that once you peel the layers back, you'll see that the beef, the situation, there's a woman at the heart of it.
I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe like, in my opinion, like a quarter, maybe less. Because, I mean, the majority of Florida State Prison and most likely others is drugs, first and foremost. Almost everybody in there, the majority is for petty shit. But then, like, the ones I was around, because, I went to the youth offenders first, that was like armed robberies, people doing their first robbery, first burglary, first gun case. Then you got the murders. So I'd say over a woman is less. I'd say most is going to be like drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard all over the place. Trey D said maybe 10 to 15%. Boosie said like maybe up to 80%. You know what I mean? Like, because a lot of times men won't admit to the real situation.
Right.
They won't admit that they're really mad at this guy because he's fucking their ex-girlfriend. And, who dumped him, a year ago because that's going to make him look like a punk.
I mean, I'll say this. A lot of violence in prison is because of women.
Really?
Yes.
Even though there's no women there.
Man, what? You got a female CO and she's giving me cigarettes and then she start giving you cigarettes? I'm going to get you out the picture because now you fucking my game up. I'm on this bitch. You know what I'm saying? She searches me. She's grabbing my back, scratching me with her nails and shit. Fucking, you got relationships like that in prison. And then you got dudes that'll get on the phone with their girl. And oh, bitch, why you ain't send the money? And she, oh, fuck you. That's why I'm fucking somebody else right now. Now he don't want to get off the phone, so the next dude in line gets into it with him, and he's pissed because of his girl, so he hang up, stabs dude. You got a lot of shit like that goes on. You got people that'll come to prison with a photo album, and they got a bad bitch, and somebody will steal their pictures because they want to go and gun the pictures down in the bathroom. And now he's swinging a lock and a sock around trying to fucking get the dude that did. Yeah, you got shit like that goes down about women. So it's like, a lot of shit always comes back to women.
Okay, well, here's another question. And I actually asked this to Terrence Gangsta Williams the other day. He gave me an interesting answer. what percentage of men that go into prison for long stretches of time, like 10 plus years, end up experimenting with basically gay relations?
I
Now,
don't know. That
keep in mind,
I can't. I'm not even qualified to answer that because he done did so much fucking time. And Boosie said that he was engaging in that shit, I believe.
Wait, what? No,
I thought that
Boosie,
was
what?
I thought that was one of the allegations that came out.
No, with the okay, okay.
That
Here we go,
Boosie said.
I thought you meant Boosie was engaging. No.
Ah, hell no.
Boosie was saying no. Okay.
Yeah, I heard.
No. Okay. Let me clear this up before you say this. Terrance had posted a picture of him when he was out, hanging out with the other hot boys, and one of the dudes was sitting on his lap.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about in prison.
I don't know about that.
A lot of the Louisiana dudes in the feds, they fuck with the DC dudes, the DC blacks. The DC blacks are known notoriously for being booty bandits in the federal prison.
Okay, I don't know about that either.
Well, they're known for this shit. Like they're really known for this shit.
I don't think you could say that a certain region is more gay than another region.
Bullshit. All right, next person you bring up that's been in the feds, ask them about the DC blacks.
Okay, I'm not throwing DC under the bus like this.
I'm not either. I didn't come up with this shit.
Homosexuality, I mean, you have a relatively similar percentage around the world.
Man,
whether
listen,
people are in the closet or not.
I went to 3 main prisons aside from receptions, right? I went to Sumter Correctional, I went to Lancaster Correctional, I went to Appalachia. Sumter was half YOs, half adults. I was on the YO side. Appalachia was all adults. That was my first all-adult prison. ACI was nicknamed Gay CI because of how much punk shit was going on at that prison. You had people getting their ass took. You had people that would come and within 1 week their eyebrows are done. They're wearing tight pants. Like, shit was bad. You had dudes walking around named Beyonce, Rihanna. The shit was fucked up.
All right, look, you can't put homosexuality on DC to say that it's like more common there than other places in the country. Like, gay people are everywhere.
I'm not putting it on them though. That's the thing. This shit's been on them for fucking decades. Like, their reputation is what put it on them. I don't have the power to put that on them. But this is something that's been historically fucking documented, well known throughout the prison channels. Now they're killing shit too, like they're gangster, but that shit is associated with their name. It is what it is.
I brought this up with Terrence Gangsta Williams, the whole gay accusations. He said, listen, I don't do anything gay. He has a bunch of kids already. He just had a new kid. I don't know. But what I did ask him is I said, what percentage of guys that are in prison for long periods of time engage in some sort of gay activities? And he said about 30%.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I was only at one adult prison. It was gay as fuck. But not every spot's going to be the same. And you got a lot of dudes that's like scared to do that shit because they know they'll get stabbed, depending on who they're affiliated with. And then you got a lot of dudes that'll openly do it if someone else is doing it. So it really just depends on where you land at. I'll say this, though. You really didn't see many, like, Hispanic people involved in that shit. If you did, they were usually the punk, the one acting like a girl. The majority of punks was white dudes that were being forced to be punks because they were scared and threatened and extorted out of their ass. And the majority of the booty bandits were like 95% black. So, there's also a big thing in the hood, like no gay shit, with every gang, but they go to prison and they're the main ones chasing ass. So it's a crazy shit. It's crazy to see. It's crazy to be around. I don't know. I can't give you a percentage.
Based on things I've heard and read about, in prison there's also different definitions of gay. So some people feel if a punk gives them head,
Man, hell no.
then it's not gay.
Fuck
I'm
no.
like, no,
Man,
that's
you-
gay.
Bro, you can't even be in a cell with them if you a gang member. You can't have a punk in the cell with you, or you're gay. Y'all sleeping in no, you gotta move him. You gotta get him out of there. That type of shit'll get you stabbed. Like there's nothing you can do with them. You're not supposed to do shit with them.
Yeah. Yeah, just don't do crime, kids. You don't want to be. You know, I remember one of the things that really messed me up was when Terrance was telling me about things he would see in terms of dudes who were basically pressured into doing gay things. He was saying that he's seen this one older inmate say, "Hey, man, your hand can't be gay."
Man, listen, there was a situation at Appalachia where a white boy got moved into an open bay dorm. A whole bunch of white boys got moved in there. They were young too, so like 18 to 20. They put them in the older dorm, and a bunch of black dudes just had all their stuff ready for when the white boys went into the showers. They were just waiting. Because the second that white boy gets under that water, them dudes get in there and they start gunning and doing all type of shit. And there was one kid that he was on the toilet, he was shitting, and dude came in there with a knife and said, "Turn around, don't even wipe."
Ugh.
And this kid, you know, he didn't want to do it, so the guy made him do something else. He started to refuse that, and dude ended up stabbing the shit out of him. So it's like, it's fucked up in there. It's a different world.
Well, if you ever consider doing crime and think it's not that bad, just replay this part of the video.
Facts. Yeah.
Because you could be taking a shit one day.
And somebody tells you,
And
turn
next thing you
around,
know-
don't even wipe, with a big ass
even
knife in
wipe.
his hand. Fuck that.
That's a hell of a decision to make, man, in that moment. That's a hell of a decision to really, to have to, figure out which way to go in that particular situation. Because it's all bad. No matter what you choose, it's all bad.
All bad.
There's nothing good gonna happen in that stall.
No.
Let me tell you.
It's going down.
It's going down. 1090 Jake, man, always a pleasure.
Sure, I appreciate it.
Congratulations again on your 1 million followers.
Thank you.
On YouTube, man. Wish you only the best, man.
Appreciate you, bro.
That's what it is. Peace.